Welcome to 5 Good Minutes.
You're listening to today's inspirational message on the book of Hebrews
with Dan Irvin.
Well, if you just consider for a moment the world in which we live and how promises can be made by politicians, promises can be made by companies, promising to delivering a guarantee that maybe they can and cannot keep. You know, even the people that are closest to us, our friends, our family, the people we look up to, sometimes they say things, well-intentioned things, promises that they can't end up keeping or hold up to their end of the bargain. And if we're honest, we've broken promises to people that we love, to people that we barely know. You know, the writer of Hebrews talks about God's promise to Abraham in this section of chapter 6, verses 13 through 19 that I want to look at today. And here's the promise that cannot be broken. You know, in this passage, it says that when God made his promise to Abraham, he swore by himself because there was no one greater to swear by. Just think about that for a moment. When we want to help someone believe us, we swear on something that's bigger than ourselves. When you're a little kid, think about, I swear on my mother's grave. I swear on the Bible. I swear to God. But God has no one greater, so he swore on himself. You know, the writer writes this and says this, and this was meant to give us a strong encouragement, his words, the writer's words, a strong encouragement to hold fast to the hope set before us. In other words, if you're looking for an anchor in the middle of a world that is full of broken promises, this is the anchor. You know, some years ago, I talked to a man who had been coming to the church for a while, and he told me the story of how he just couldn't trust people anymore. Going back to when he was little, his dad had left. As he grew up, his business partner ended up turning his back on him. And he said, if God is anything like the people that I've trusted in my life, then I don't think I want anything to do with God. But that's exactly the point of this passage that we read today, is that God is not like us. His promises don't fluctuate with how he's feeling, his circumstances, what's going on around him. And just imagine you're boarding a plane. Okay, it's not how strong, your faith is in that plane if you're a little nervous about getting on the plane. What matters is whether the plane is worthy to go into the air. Has it been checked? Has it been secured? Has it been built with care? Has it been maintained? You can walk onto that plane trembling with fear, gripping, the seat next to you the whole entire way. But if the plane is up to the task, if the conditions are right, you'll land and you'll be safe. In the same way that the strength of our hope in God is not in our ability to hold on to God, but in the reliability of God himself, of the one who holds us. It's not in our ability to hope enough. And that's why the writer uses this image of an anchor. We have this hope as an anchor for the soul, firm and secure, he writes. An anchor keeps the boat steady when the waves rise up, when the storm threatens to push you off the course. But we can notice something here, that the anchors go down deep where you cannot see them. And in the same way, God has secured his promise for us in a place that we can't fully yet see, the very presence of Jesus, our high priest, Jesus in heaven. Our anchor is not in our circumstances around us, is not in the success or failure of our careers. It's not in our spiritual lives even, but it's in Jesus, who has gone before us and has secured our future. And we can trust this because at the cross, Jesus gave himself. He didn't swear by himself, didn't just swear by himself, but he gave himself. He staked his very life on his own word. And Jesus rose again, proving that his power, that his promises, God's promises, are unbreakable. Where is your anchor? Where is your anchor today? If it's in yourself, your relationships, your health, your bank account, you'll drift. But if your anchor is in the unchanging promise of God, we can walk with confidence into the storms, the different seasons of life, because God's anchor is unmovable, is unshakable.
Thanks for joining us here today. There's a lot of great content to explore on Orchard Hill Plus and on the Orchard Hill main feed from the weekend. Have a great day.